Do you have a child who just doesn't seem to get it when it comes to math? Stick around because today I'm going to share with you some math game changers. Hi, I'm Rebecca with the Parent Teacher Bridge, where you can find the ideas and resources you need to empower you to become your child's most influential teacher. Today I'm talking about some math game changers. Now, an effective math curriculum is going to include most, if not all of these, but I have found over the years that it is a great idea to supplement any math curriculum that you may be using. And you might ask, okay, am I really using a math curriculum if I'm sending my child to public or private school? Well, yes, you are. Your child is assigned homework, your child is getting practice. There is a math curriculum. Often the teachers don't even get to determine what that math curriculum is, but I would highly suggest that you find out the name of the math curriculum and look into it because there's so much that you can learn just from knowing that information. But it's a good idea to supplement with these math game changers just so that it closes in any gaps and it exposes your child to different ways of answering some math questions, different ways that the math questions are asked. Now, before we dig in, make sure you click like and subscribe, and you can click the little bell in the corner so you can be notified each time I upload a new video for your child's education. The first one is real world numbers. Make sure that you are including your child in how you use numbers and math every day in the real world. Now, some of you are probably already doing this. You love to be around your child, you have the time available, and so on. But if you haven't ever thought about this, let me encourage you to include your child in cooking with you whenever possible. If you don't want them to cook with your regular meals, whip up a batch of brownies or cookies, anything you can to get your child used to measuring things out, hearing those fraction names, and understanding what they really mean. Because if you include your child in cooking with you, they will over time become less intimidated with fractions. And if you do it when they're young, then when they start learning fractions, they're going to understand them so much more. Likewise, you can include your child in making crafts or doing some work around the house using things like measuring tape. They're going to get exposure to number lines and fractions along the way. They're also going to find out how to measure where is the starting point and how you can estimate. But the bottom line here is this: make sure you are thinking ahead and including your child into the math that they are one day going to use when they're an adult. Parents, are you struggling with ways on how to help your child learn their multiplication facts? Be sure to sign up for my free download below. I'll leave a link in the description. The next thing is graphic organizers. Now, I tutor math students, so I'm seeing what is popularly used right now, and one of those things is number bonds. A number bond basically looks like some sort of molecule. It's like three circles. The largest circle is the largest number, and the other two circles can be two numbers that make up the largest number. Imagine you have the number 8 in the large circle. You might include a 7 and a 1 in the smaller circles, or a 6 and a 2, and so on. You get the idea. When the child is working with number bonds, they start to understand how you have a number and it's made of other parts. Now, number bonds aren't always in circle shape, they can be in squares or even something different like a star or a triangle shape. But some of them are completely empty, and your child must fill in the three numbers and know exactly where to put the largest number. Some of them are filled out partially, and your child must understand a true fact family, that is, three numbers where two are added to make the sum, or two are subtracted to make the difference. Another popular graphic organizer that you will see are bars or tape diagrams, and these help children understand word problems a lot better. So if you have something like Johnny has 15 Hot Wheels cars and Bobby has 8 cars less, A lot of the times we teach children key words and what they mean, but when you start to expose children to different kinds of word problems, they can get lost in that. So if they have a bar chart or a tape diagram, a bar model is what I meant to say, and or a tape diagram, your child can start to understand, okay, who has the largest amount? They're going to get the larger bar. And, if they have that much less, then they're going to get the smaller bar. And they learn to label those things so they can more clearly see if they are meant to add or subtract in the problem. Now, I'm going to leave a couple of links in the description below so that you can see some examples of what I'm talking about with these popular graphic organizers. The third thing is using math manipulatives. Now, most of the time, these come in the form of colored blocks that may connect. I have some that are called Unifix cubes, and they're one of my most favorite math tools that I have used over the years. You can use them for so many things, whether you are talking about comparing what's the least, what's the greatest, how many more, how many less. There's just no end to how you can use these. You can even use them to fill in answers for those number bonds that we talked about earlier. But even if you don't have those readily available, you can grab other small objects such as pennies from a coin bank, or maybe something edible like Cheerios or chocolate chips. You just have to watch about your child eating them. But that can be a fun thing that you work with and then reward your child where they can eat them when they're done with the math practice. Now, one of the reasons why children struggle is that they haven't had enough practice with manipulatives before a teacher gives them an assignment with just a bunch of numbers on it. And they don't really understand what's going on, how one number represents a larger amount than another number, and it's all abstract to them. But adding manipulatives in is something you can do with your child at home when they have homework and they're struggling with it, to make it a little bit more concrete and understandable than just a worksheet with numbers. I'm going to leave a link in the description below to the cubes that I use. They're very affordable, only about $10 or $11. The next game changer is a hundreds chart. You can easily find these online. You can print them out and have your child color them. You can print ones out that are partially filled in and have your child practice filling in the rest of it. It's an excellent way for your child to understand how much is 100 and all of the patterns that you can make inside a 100. Now, my little girl really loves to have these where she can color them, and she'll even take them into her bedroom and like to practice counting out loud. That's always a fun thing to try, especially if you print off some extras. Your child can use them to play school and so on. But we also keep one handy that's been laminated for when she's doing her math work and I'm not available and she needs to add or subtract some numbers that she doesn't really have memorized. I've taught her how to go forward if she's adding and go backward if she's subtracting. So we use it sort of like we would a number line. I will leave a link to some hundreds charts that you can print off below in the description. The next game changer is graph paper. Now, I have used this recently with a couple of tutoring students of mine who are in fifth grade. And for whatever reason, they weren't used to writing neatly. And it's really caught up with them in their math skills because they are learning how to multiply 2-digit numbers by 2-digit numbers and even 3-digit numbers by 2-digit numbers. So lining up their digits is incredibly important. And adding graph paper as one of the game changers has really changed the game. So I recommend that you get your child a graph paper notebook, and those aren't as cheap as regular notebooks, so you may want to only pull out a few sheets at a time for your child to work some of those longer math problems. Even long division, it can come in handy for that as well. But I'm going to leave a link below into some printable graph paper options where if you just want to do one page at a time as needed on your printer, you can do that. The nice thing about graph paper is that your child can be trained to write 1 digit per block. And on this printable graph paper, you can find some where the blocks are smaller and the blocks are larger. The next game changer is math fact apps. Now, you don't have to have an app for your child to practice their math facts, but I have found that it's easy to just have something where it's self-checking for your child. Now, flashcards, I'm still all for those, and those can be used in lots of fun ways as well. But a math fact app is something that you can hand your child to practice while you are busy doing something else, and then you can come back and check and see how they are doing. Any middle school or high school math teacher will tell you that learning basic math facts is critical to doing well in upper level math. One of my favorite math fact apps is called Teach Me Math Facts. Now, just about the only thing that it doesn't have is mixed review, but a child can practice adding or subtracting or multiplying or dividing. They can create their own account. You can have several accounts for several children, like we do in our house, and you can check their progress. And the wonderful thing is, they're not distracted by all the rewards because they have to do the practice before they get the rewards. The rewards are coins. And once they have enough coins, they can go to the store and purchase something. Once they purchase something, they have no more coins left and they must go back and do more practice. So I found this to be incredibly helpful at motivating my children to learning their math facts. Now, I've done a video about Teach Me Math Facts. If you like more information about it, I will link in the description below to that video. Now, if you like to avoid screens, you can also check out some math dice games for learning math facts. I will leave a link to those in the description below as well. The next game changer is number lines. Now, if there's ever any math tool that I feel is being underused right now in the schools, it is number lines. Children just don't seem to have a concept of where numbers should be on a number line, as in the smaller numbers are closer to 0 and they are on the left side of the paper, and the larger numbers are on the right side of the paper. A child who truly has had enough experience with number lines will not really have as much of a problem when they get to 7th grade and they all of a sudden have to work with negative numbers and positive numbers and adding and subtracting them and understanding which direction they are going on the number line. So it's sort of like something I've said before with learning the alphabet. A good reader who catches on to reading very well, they kind of understand and have a mental ABC chart in their mind. They think A, apple, B, ball, C, cat, and so on. They have it memorized because they've seen it so much. The same is true with number lines. If your child is exposed to number lines, regular ones that are counting by ones, some others that are skip counting by other numbers, they will be equipped to handle upper level math so much more. Now, you can get practice with number lines online where the child has to fill in the missing numbers. You can practice drawing some on your own. Try turning a ruled sheet of paper landscape and use the red margin line as your number line and using the blue lines on the paper as your intervals. You can also print off blank number lines online and have your child practice filling in numbers, either counting by ones, twos, fives, tens, and so on. Parents, you are your child's most influential teacher. If something isn't working in your child's math, learn to adapt. Pull out some of those manipulatives, pull out some of these game changers to try at home. If your child is going to a private school or a public school, open up the lines of communication with your child's teacher and speak with your child's teacher about what modifications can she make to help your child succeed better. What tools can we give them to help them succeed? Now, if that still isn't working for you, you might want to look into the possibilities of homeschooling. There are so many choices for math curriculum in homeschooling. And I know that there are different companies, math companies, that you can use for even different children as you look at your children's strengths and weaknesses. It is the epitome of freedom. I cannot stress to you enough how wonderful it is that I don't have to worry about some of the things with my children that the parents of my tutoring students have to worry about, as far as math tests or the way that they explain something in a certain math curriculum that doesn't seem to make sense. I don't have to adhere to that. I have full control over that and I can make the executive decision on my own. So I encourage you to open up your mind and consider that possibility as well. There are many extra helpful tools that you can have if you were to choose that. There are online math curricula for homeschool. There are teachers online that actually will teach the lesson, and your child has an actual textbook at home. We have found that to be something helpful for some of our friends as well. Now, here's my soapbox alert. So please understand when I go into this, my experience. I have been a public school teacher, I have been a private school teacher. I continue to tutor children that are in public and private school, and I homeschool my children as well. So let me share with you a few things that I have noticed. If you are interested in homeschooling, be sure to check out my survival guide for the new homeschool family. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. As I am tutoring the students that I have from the local private and public schools, one issue that I'm running into is seeing that children aren't fluent in their math. They're always second guessing themselves. They're not very confident. And one of the reasons I think that is occurring is that their math curriculum is trying to explain an idea, a concept, and it's giving them maybe 5 to 10 different algorithms that they can try. There's just too many options. Now, in the classroom, I like to choose one that's going to work for most children and teach it first and teach it well. And then when I have a struggling student, I can pull them over to the side and teach them another strategy. Or if the entire class is getting the strategy, then I can share with them another way to do it. We don't need 5 or 10 different ways on how to solve a problem. But what do we need? We need a way that is going to get consistent and correct answers. And that's not what I'm seeing in my students. I'm seeing that they are trying a certain problem with a certain strategy, and within that strategy, they're trying to pull other things from another strategy. So basically, they're getting all these strategies confused because they're getting overwhelmed. And I'm not necessarily blaming the teachers here. I'm saying this is the way the curriculum is written. So do look into that. If you are seeing something that isn't making sense in your child's math curriculum, ask questions about it and know that you always have options. Now, if you want to look into some math curriculum for homeschool, understand that you can get old-fashioned textbooks like you and I had growing up. You can get a workbook format where your child actually writes in the book. You can get something that comes with DVDs or something that is online where a recorded version of a teacher teaching the lesson is there. You can even use some services online where after you watch the recorded lesson and you're working on your work and you have questions, you can actually contact a teacher live to get help. One of my former homeschool tutoring students had something similar to that. So just in case you don't homeschool, you may not be aware that all of those possibilities exist, but they do. So I encourage you to look into those options. Now, whether or not you take my advice on the idea of homeschooling and using that freedom to make sure that your child is ready for the real world in their math skills, these math game changers that I've shared today truly will build your child's math confidence and maybe even help to make math a little bit less boring. So try them out even when your child has some math homework that they're bringing home and they are struggling. Parents, I hope that helped. If it did, leave me a comment below. Remember, you can email me, Rebecca at theparentteacherbridge.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And please remember, you are your child's most influential teacher.